and I knew I am. I am what I am. And then I thought, but what have I been before? And then I found that I had been in a mist, not knowing to differentiate myself from things. I was just one thing among many things.
Have you ever found yourself watching a movie or reading a book where the character's journey felt eerily similar to your own struggles? Maybe you were drawn to the hero overcoming impossible odds, or felt uncomfortable seeing the villain wrestle with their inner darkness. It's like the story spoke to a part of you that you couldn't quite explain, but somehow it resonated. That's no coincidence. These characters, these stories, they connect with us on a deeper level because they tap into something universal. Archetypes. Carl Jung believed that archetypes are not just characters in stories, they're psychological patterns that shape our lives, stemming from the collective unconscious. This shared layer of the mind carries the universal symbols and experiences of humanity. These patterns, archetypes like the hero, the animus, and the self, aren't just abstract ideas. They are active forces in your psyche, influencing your thoughts, behaviors, and emotions, often without you even realizing it. But what if you did realize it? What if you could understand and engage with these archetypes consciously? How would that change the way you approach your challenges, your relationships, and your sense of self? Imagine how different your life could feel if you were able to recognize these patterns and work with them instead of letting them silently influence your actions. Let's begin with one of the most familiar and powerful archetypes, the hero. You've seen this archetype over and over, whether it's Odysseus battling the gods or Iron Man saving the world. The hero's journey is so compelling because it represents something universal, the struggle for personal growth. The hero within you is the part that seeks out challenges, faces adversity, and pushes through to achieve something greater. But here's the thing. The hero doesn't just live in myths or blockbusters. The hero archetype is a living force within you, urging you to grow and transform. Take a moment to think about your own life. When was the last time you were at a crossroads, faced with a decision that could change the course of your life? Maybe it was a career choice, a relationship, or even a personal challenge like breaking a habit or overcoming a fear. Did you feel that pull, the sense that you had to move forward, even if the path ahead seemed difficult or unclear? That's the hero in you answering the call to adventure. Jung believed that the hero's journey wasn't just about external triumphs, it's about inner transformation. The hero represents the part of us that knows we are capable of more, even if the road to becoming that more is fraught with challenges. Jung himself embodied the hero when he broke away from Freud's teachings, venturing into uncharted territory with his theories on the unconscious. He faced professional isolation and personal turmoil, but he followed his inner calling because he knew the journey was necessary for his own growth, and ultimately, for the world of psychology. Think about a challenge you've recently faced. What did it ask of you? Did you rise to the occasion, or did you hesitate, unsure if you had what it took to move forward? We all face that moment when the hero is called, and yet the path ahead is filled with uncertainty. But what we often overlook is that every hero's journey involves struggle. It's not just about achieving victory, it's about the transformation that happens through adversity. Here's an example. Imagine you've been offered a promotion at work, but it requires you to lead a team for the first time. Part of you feels excited, but another part hesitates, fearing you might fail or be exposed as inexperienced. The hero's journey here isn't about whether or not you get the promotion. It's about stepping into that fear, taking on the challenge, and becoming more than you were before. This is the moment of transformation, where you move past your self-imposed limitations. Every hero's journey eventually leads to a descent, a moment where they must confront their deepest fears, their own flaws, and the darker aspects of themselves. In mythology, this often takes the form of the hero venturing into the underworld or battling a great monster. Think of Theseus facing the Minotaur or Frodo entering Mordor. But in our own lives, the descent is less literal, yet just as daunting. Have you ever had a period in your life where everything seemed to fall apart? Maybe it was the loss of a job, the end of a relationship, or a time when you felt lost, without direction. This is your personal descent. It's painful. It feels like everything is unraveling. But here's what Jung would remind us. This is the part of the hero's journey where transformation is about to occur. It's in these moments of darkness that the hero begins to discover their true strength. And to do that, the hero must confront something many of us try to avoid: the shadow. We all have a shadow. It's the part of ourselves that we hide, the parts we're ashamed of, the desires we've suppressed, the traits we've disowned because we don't want to face them. The shadow is that voice that whispers your fears and insecurities, the side of you that reacts with anger, jealousy, or shame. But Jung believed that until we confront our shadow, it will control us from the unconscious, shaping our actions and decisions in ways we don't even realize. Think about this for a moment. When was the last time you found yourself overreacting to a situation? Maybe a simple comment from a friend sent you spiraling into self-doubt, or a minor inconvenience at work caused you to lash out in frustration. Why do these things trigger such strong emotional responses? Often it's because they touch on something deeper, something unresolved in your shadow. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." In other words, if you don't face your shadow, it will continue to influence your life without your awareness. And here's the difficult truth. Your shadow isn't just bad. It contains parts of yourself that you've rejected but are essential for your growth. What are you hiding from? What part of yourself are you afraid to confront? Your shadow might be telling you that you're not good enough, that you'll fail, or that you're unworthy of love. But facing these fears, bringing them into the light, is the only way to disarm them. Let's make this more clear. Imagine you're in a relationship, and every time your partner criticizes you, even lightly, you feel an intense reaction: anger, hurt, maybe even shame. The reaction seems disproportionate, but it's likely because the criticism touches on an old wound, perhaps one from childhood or a previous relationship. This is the shadow at work, controlling your response from the unconscious. If you don't bring it into the light and understand where that wound comes from, it will continue to create conflict and distance in your relationship. Jung himself spent years confronting his own shadow, diving into the depths of his unconscious in what he called his night sea journey, documented in the Red Book. He didn't just theorize about the shadow, he experienced it firsthand, and through that journey he discovered something profound. The shadow isn't an enemy to be defeated, but a part of ourselves that must be integrated. By embracing our shadow, we can reclaim the parts of ourselves we've denied, our passion, creativity, and power. But the journey doesn't end with confronting the shadow. There's another layer that's just as essential to your growth: the balance between the anima and animus, the feminine and masculine aspects of your psyche. Jung believed that each of us carries both these forces within us, regardless of gender. For men, the anima represents the inner feminine, emotions, intuition, and vulnerability. For women, the animus represents the inner masculine, strength, assertiveness, and logic. But here's the problem. Many of us have been taught to suppress one side of this duality. Maybe you've been told that showing emotion is a sign of weakness, so you've pushed down your anima, relying too much on rationality and control. Or maybe you've been conditioned to avoid assertiveness because you're afraid of being seen as too aggressive, so you hold back your animus, struggling to stand up for yourself. What about you? Where do you find imbalance in your own life? Do you find it hard to connect with your emotions? Or do you struggle to assert yourself, afraid of stepping into your power? The truth is, both the anima and animus are necessary for a balanced, authentic life. Jung believed that integrating these opposite forces leads to wholeness, a sense of inner harmony that allows you to live in alignment with your true self. Here's a practical example. Imagine you're in a romantic relationship, and every time your partner asks you to be more emotionally open, you shut down or deflect. You've always been taught that vulnerability equals weakness, so you avoid it at all costs. But over time, this creates distance in the relationship because your partner feels disconnected from you. This is a sign that your anima, your emotional, intuitive side, has been suppressed. To bring balance, you'd need to reconnect with that part of yourself, allowing for deeper emotional connection without feeling like it threatens your strength. In mythology, we see this balance all the time. Think of the relationship between Eros and Psyche, the masculine force of love and the feminine force of soul, coming together to create harmony. In your own life, the balance between your anima and animus allows you to be both strong and sensitive, assertive and compassionate. Without this integration, you might find yourself feeling disconnected, either overly logical or too emotionally overwhelmed. Another powerful archetype that influences us in profound ways is the child. The child archetype represents innocence, curiosity, and the eternal potential for renewal. It's that part of you that sees the world with fresh eyes, filled with wonder and possibility. But the child isn't just about playfulness. It's also about the vulnerability we often try to hide as we grow older. Think back to your childhood. Do you remember how the world felt when you were young? How big, how full of potential, and how anything seemed possible? That's the child archetype in its purest form. But as we grow older, many of us lose touch with that sense of wonder. We become jaded, weighed down by responsibilities and expectations, and we start to believe that the magic of life is behind us. The child within us begins to fade. But what if it didn't have to? What if that sense of innocence and curiosity could be reclaimed? Jung believed that the child archetype represents the potential for renewal and rebirth, a part of us that can always begin again. The child is the eternal optimist, always seeing the possibility for growth, no matter how difficult life becomes. It's that part of us that refuses to give up hope, even when the adult in us feels worn down by the pressures of life. Here's an example. Let's say you've been working in the same job for years. It's safe and comfortable, but it no longer excites you. You feel like the magic of life has dulled. The child within you is the part that whispers, what if you could start fresh? What if you could follow that dream you've kept buried for years? It's the part that sees life not as something to be endured, but as something full of potential, if only you'd allow yourself to dream again. Take a moment to reflect. When was the last time you felt pure joy or wonder? When was the last time you approached something in your life with the curiosity of a child, without judgment or fear of looking foolish? These moments can be profoundly healing because they connect us with a part of ourselves that we've likely forgotten but desperately need. Finally, there's the most important archetype in Jungian psychology, the self. If the hero is about the journey and the shadow about the parts of ourselves we hide, the self represents the totality of who we are. The self is the ultimate goal of individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating all aspects of your personality, both conscious and unconscious. In Jung's view, the self is not just your conscious ego or your day-to-day identity. It's the center of your psyche, the core of your being, where all the other archetypes come together. The self is where your true essence resides, the part of you that transcends the roles you play in life and the masks you wear. It is your true self, the one you are continually seeking to discover and express. Have you ever had a moment of intense clarity, where you felt completely in alignment with yourself, as if you were living out your true purpose? Those fleeting moments of inner peace and harmony are glimpses of the self. They are rare, but they are powerful, and they remind you of the person you're meant to become, the integrated, whole self that exists beneath the surface of everyday life. But the journey to the self is not easy. It requires you to face your shadow, balance your anima and animus, and reconnect with your inner child. It's a lifelong process, and, along the way, there will be moments of confusion, setbacks, and challenges. Yet, Jung believed that individuation is the most important journey you will ever take. Where are you in this journey? Are there parts of yourself that still feel fragmented or disconnected? Do you find yourself struggling to align who you are with who you want to become? These are important questions to ask as you seek the self. This archetype represents wholeness, the unification of opposites. It's not about being perfect, it's about being complete. It's about integrating all aspects of yourself, even the parts that feel contradictory or uncomfortable. Jung described the self as a mandala, a symbol of totality and unity. In pursuing the self, you are seeking to create a life that is not fragmented, but unified and harmonious, where all aspects of your being are aligned. It's easy to understand these archetypes on an intellectual level, but the real transformation happens when you actively engage with them. Jung believed in practices like journaling, meditation, and active imagination to help bring the unconscious to the surface. Here's a practical challenge for you. Over the next week, dedicate time to journaling your dreams. Pay attention to the symbols that show up. Who is the hero in your dreams? What parts of yourself does the shadow reveal? Does the child appear reminding you of something you've neglected? Take these symbols seriously. They're your unconscious speaking to you. You can also try active imagination, a practice Jung used to communicate directly with the unconscious. The next time you feel a strong emotional reaction, sit with it. Close your eyes and imagine yourself talking to that part of you, whether it's the hero, the shadow, or even the child. Ask it what it wants to show you. You might be surprised by what you uncover. At the heart of all of Jung's work is the process of individuation. This isn't about striving for perfection or fitting into society's expectations. It's about integrating all the parts of yourself, your strengths and weaknesses, your light and your darkness, your masculine and feminine energies, your innocence and your maturity, into a whole, authentic self. But here's the hard truth. The journey of individuation isn't easy. It's filled with twists, turns, and moments of descent into darkness. There will be times when you feel lost, when your shadow seems too strong, or when the balance between your anima and animus feels impossible to achieve. Now let me remind you of Jung's words. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The more you engage with these archetypes, the more you'll understand yourself, and the more you'll unlock the potential to live a life that feels true to who you really are. So, what will your next step be? The time to start this journey is now.